Gets open for three. Dagger!
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. You like that? You like that? I like that.
You gotta like that, right?
My approval ratings keep going up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Welcome in. This is Defeating the Curse. My name is Joe. His name is Stevie in position 2. Matt is going to join us in a bit. I'm excited. Matt's making his return to the pod. Perfect timing, too, for Matt. I mean, he's all in on all the baseball stuff that's happening, Stevie. And I got to be honest, I was into it last night. It's tough to pick a team or to cheer for the Braves or the Phillies. I don't know much, but I know that you really shouldn't be cheering for either of those teams given we live in D.C., but man, was that exciting. That was exciting to watch. It was exciting to listen to. And I even commented to you last night. It's very hard. Like I had the multi-view going. I don't know if you're doing the multi-view on YouTube TV where you get like the quad box or the side-by-side. Outside of the first quarter of the Monday Night Football game, I do like listening to the Peyton and Eli soundtrack. But as the night goes on, it does get harder to listen to them, especially when the game is not that interesting. But the broadcast audio sound, like the feel of the event, was so much different, and it pulled me in and it kept me locked in on the baseball side of the screen. I know you live for this time of year, and Matt does too. I'm gonna guess that you watched very little Monday Night Football.
Un poquito.
Yeah, that's about it.
Listen.
How much football did you watch on Sunday this week?
You are having the new sports experience, Joe. Welcome to the new world order here, brother. Okay, NFL poo-poo. Okay, and FP's not here to fight me. Okay, NFL has been going down the tubes. Look, quality of play has gone down. Quality of quarterbacks, bad teams increasing. Broadcasters awful. Pace of play has slowed down, whereas MLB has picked up. I mean, there's so many things that make the NFL unwatchable. If you're not placing a giant 4-leg, 8-leg parlay on a game, I don't know who's watching a Raiders, who was it last night, Packers game, or who's choosing that over one of the best baseball games I have seen in a very long time.
I mean, it felt like a heavyweight fight. It just like I was trying to explain it to one of my kids who admittedly don't like, we all got into baseball, right? Like it was the baseball family when the Nats were making their crazy run, and it hasn't been that way. But I was trying to explain to them like why it was so loud, down here in the basement when I was watching last night. Cause I was really excited watching it. And honestly, I surprised myself that I was that into it, given that there was one football on the other half of my screen. But I really just, I mean, I think it had something to do with like the game coming down to like Bryce and the base running and the crazy catch. Like we'll wait for Matt to kind of get into all of it. But to bring this back to football, we'll kind of go football. Then I think we'll switch back into baseball. I generally agree with you. I mean, it's becoming more and more difficult to watch bad football. Right. I think as I've gotten older, as collectively as our attention spans have gotten shorter, there's too many breaks. There's too many, like even with the reviews, like it's fine. But the game, it kind of at times moves like molasses. Like it feels drawn out, very different than soccer, which I love watching on TV, and even baseball. And again, we'll talk about like what baseball has done right here with regards to shortening the game. They had record gate in attendance this year, which was crazy. I pulled all the numbers. We'll talk about it all. But the NFL it's in a weird spot. Like last night's game was it was two teams battling for 2-2. The whole league effectively at this point is alive. Right. And it's the same thing we've been saying for several weeks. One, admittedly, I've calmed down since last week when I went berserk after the Commanders lost to the Bears and just a pathetic showing from the Commanders, and looking around the league, like they are who we think they are. Like, or you are, I think what you said last week was perfect. Like you are what your record says you are. And I think that applies to the majority of the bottom teams. And I mean, obviously there wasn't one single game that I watched really closely or that I want to recap, but you look at the teams at the bottom. I'll just give you my low 5 here. Let's just jump right into it. The Patriots, like we might be witnessing the end of Bill Belichick, right? He's not gonna go out on top. He's not even gonna go out as an average coach, Stevie. He's gonna go out as, he could potentially be out this season with, not just a losing record, but a pathetic one at that. I don't know if Kraft has the patience to let this Mac Jones Belichick experience continue. And what is shocking to me, just focusing on the Patriots for a second, this is the first time in a long time that I don't could you name 2 players on either side of the ball for them right now? They have no star power at all. At all. Like they like it was clear when they peaked. Everybody knew who Tom Brady was, and whichever receiver was playing with him, you knew some of the pieces on the defensive side, whether it's Brewski or Mayo or whoever. They've got no recognizable studs right now.
So Joe, are you telling me that, and this is a very foreseeable potential right now, if Ron Rivera disappeared tomorrow, which is very likely,
That'd be great. Don't get me
would you take Bieniemy over Bill Belichick? They said, okay, Bill Belichick will be the head coach of the Washington Redskins.
I think I would still say, come on down, Bill. Come down 95 and get it done here. Okay. Like in that scenario, he's leaps and bounds better than Ron. And frankly, the roster as constructed, the Commanders have a significantly more talented roster than the Patriots do right now. So would I welcome him? Yeah, sure. Like he can't be worse. Steve,
you would take him over Bieniemy, over Bieniemy, over Ron.
100% over Bieniemy too. Yes, because right now the problem is not a offensive problem. The problem with the Commanders is a defensive problem, and it's a discipline problem, right? Again, going back to what we talked about last week, one of the first complaints to come out of training camp, within the first 2 weeks of training camp, players were complaining to Ron that Bieniemy was working them too hard. Like that is a culture problem. That is a Ron problem. That's not an Eric Bieniemy problem. So if Belichick became suddenly available or they traded for him and they fired Ron, yeah, he's the better option because this team needs an identity. It needs culture. It needs someone to, like, the irony is neither one of them do much on the sideline. Like Belichick is kind of stoic too. He doesn't give anything to the media, and Ron shares some of that. The difference is one is extremely successful and one is not. And frankly, the Commanders have a better talent top to bottom. What's shocking to me is that we might actually be watching the end of Belichick, right? Like he's going to go out on the bottom. And that's just, they're one in, at this point, they're 1 in, 100. Like I don't see where they're going to get another win short of the Commanders game in a couple weeks on the schedule. Broncos, you look at the Broncos, terrible coaching. Sean Payton having to eat his words against Nathaniel Hackett and the Jets. They were celebrating. The Jets were celebrating like they did something. They beat one of the worst teams in the league. So like let's take it down a notch here. But the Broncos are they're a ship without a captain, no rudder on that boat. They are a disaster.
The Belichick thing is interesting though, because I think there's I want to use that term again because I like it, and I think there's also some geopolitical impact there. There's a new world order happening in the NFL where the days of defensive coaches leading NFL teams as head coaches is almost like, okay, give me, I'm just making this up now. Your top 5 teams, San Francisco's in there. Kyle Shanahan, offensive guy. Eagles are probably in there. Sirianni, he's an offensive guy, I believe. He used to be a quarterback's coach. Andy Reid in Kansas City, clearly offensive guy, right? So,
McDermott,
I can't think
defensive guy, maybe an exception there. And I think
Dan Campbell, defensive guy.
Yeah, but those guys have identities, and they bring a culture with them. They bring an intensity with them.
Think about all those former Redskins guys, right? LaFleur, Shanahan, the guy in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, and also McDaniel. It's Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell
in Minnesota. But Mike McDaniel is also an ex guy, running an ex Commanders guy running in Miami. And obviously Sean McVay.
Saying,
so yeah, they're all
you need an offensive-minded head coach in this NFL.
They're all disciples of the same guy, by the way, right? They're all part of that Jay Gruden tree, which every one of them walked out of the building here, and we got run. So, and just to pile on here, damn it, I promised I wasn't going to go like a mile deep on this, but
I promised your wife I'd take care of your heart. Okay.
Did you happen to see what I shared with the boys earlier with regards to the offensive line that Ron inherited versus the one that we have now? Did you happen to see that graphic, Stevie? I'm going to pull it up here, and I promise I don't mean to like I don't mean to make this about, Ron and all the nonsense that we talked about last week, because there's other stuff I want to talk about too. But just listen to this team, okay? Like what he inherited: Trent Williams, left tackle; Eric Flowers, left guard. And you could argue that he was serviceable at
Yeah.
best, but fine. Chase Rouillet, center; Brandon Sheriff, right guard; Morgan Moses, your guy, right tackle. So
Double M.
if they had this line right now, how much better would Sam Howell be? Right? Even if you had 2 or 3 of these pieces right now, how much better would you be? What do we have right now? Charles Leno. I like him. I
Yuck.
know you don't.
Yuck.
Charles, Nick Gates,
Blah.
Sam Cosmi, who's rated by PFF as the best that they have at the moment, and Andrew Wiley. Eric Flowers, ironically, is out there as a free agent, but like Cosmi is the only one that's even closely like he's the best one, and he's rating out as a C. And the best thing he's got going to his credit right now is that he hasn't given up a sack this season in 230 plus snaps. But like, I mean, the Broncos are a mess. They can't protect Russell Wilson. He can't protect himself. Like they have some bright spots on offense, but they're a disaster. And it comes back to coaching. The Panthers clearly. Hold on, before you jump in. The Panthers drafted the wrong guy in Bryce Young. Let me just round up my bottom 5 here. The Panthers got the wrong guy in the draft. He's too small. You can see it like plain as day with your eyeballs when you watch the Panthers play. He's timid. He's small. The Panthers, and they don't have a first round pick that's going to Chicago. The Giants are another just complete disaster. I don't know where the Giants go from here. I know Matt's going to join us in a second. We can get his take on it, but that team is a complete mess as well. Without any, reasonable or identifiable talent outside of maybe Darren Waller and Saquon when he's healthy. And then the Bears, and I struggled to put the Bears in the bottom 5 because Justin Fields has looked so good over the last 2 games, and they just whooped up on the Commanders. But, they still are kind of lacking an identity. But the one thing all those teams have in common is they don't have a winning culture per se, and their coaches right now are struggling to make an impact with those teams. Daboll may be the closest, but it's such a stark contrast at the bottom of the table. And, in weeks past, I had the Commanders somewhere in the middle, 15, 16. They belong around 20, 22, 23 at this point in the season. And frankly, I got them losing against the Falcons. I can't pick them to win. I don't know if you see it differently. I know you're going to be there, but I don't see how they go into Atlanta and win.
Well, look. There's probably 20 bad teams in the league. I mean, right now we could list 20 teams that have no chance of competing in the playoffs, right? Someone's going to have to make the playoffs, so it's not like these teams will make it. But by the way, just to go back to your O-line thing, I know I'm all over the place. O-line and defensive line are the 2 positions on the football field that FP can kill me for this. I don't listen to PFF. I don't look at PFF stats.
Just in your eyeballs?
Yeah, well,
Wait,
PFF said
your eyeballs that watched 0 minutes of football this past weekend.
That's right. I'll take 0 minutes of my eye test versus PFF saying that Chase Young led the team in pressures, and Chase Young had the most QB hits.
All over Chase. Dude, all over Chase.
The O-line, D-line is a much more eye test situation than passes broken up by a defensive back, yards after catch by a running back or wide receiver or something like that. Those are much more tangible stats. Offensive line, defensive line, you need to use the eye test. The eye test in Washington shows we have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And to the commenter's question, do they still have a shot at the playoffs? Absolutely. Not because of any good thing that the Commanders have going on, but because there are that many bad teams in the NFL and in the NFC particularly, where outside of Detroit, Philly, you can't even put Dallas, San Francisco. You can't put Dallas in there anymore after the whooping they took. Outside of those 3, and you can put in Seattle just because why not? I mean, there are not 6 quality teams in the NFC.
But so I'm gonna go the other way. I don't think they have a shot at the playoffs because to make the playoffs, you've got to win. You've got to win at least against the bottom feeders in the NFC. The Bills lost, fine. They were going to lose to the Bills either way. I'm fine with it. They could have beat the Eagles and they didn't. That will come back to haunt them. The Bears loss is going to haunt them more. And frankly, when they lose to Atlanta this weekend, playoffs are gone at that point, right? Because these are 2 teams that they will like. The Bears look considerably better right now as a playoff to me to make the playoffs because they're playing better football. Like I don't know where the Commanders go from here.
Come on. Come on, they win
How
on
often?
Sunday.
If
They
they
win
win
on
on Sunday,
Sunday.
then they got to deal with the Giants and Daniel Jones, who, as I documented last week very eloquently, he owns this team and he will run for 60 yards straight down the field and score 2 touchdowns. And Chase will
Well,
be dancing around on the edge, not
that,
getting a tackle.
there's a very good chance that 8 and 9 will get you a wild card berth in the NFC.
I don't think so, because I think the Cowboys will still be a plus team in the end. I think, yeah, I mean, I do. Look, you mentioned some of the better teams. I'll give you mine, and then we'll let's switch into baseball because I know you're anxious, and I want to bring Matt in here too. Top 5, 49ers for me are number 1. You tell me if you disagree. I got the Eagles at 2, even though they, sometimes they tend to fall asleep during some of these games. I'm going to go with Dolphins at 3. I just think they can score at will, and adding Chase Claypool is. I don't know how McDaniels plans to use all of those weapons, but they are insanely fast. I don't know if you. I know you didn't watch it, but I would encourage you to go look at the
Well, Aitchen's
highlight.
out.
Yeah, I understand, but they still got Raheem Morris. So like they got other people that can play, right? But they seem to be able to score at will, even though Tua had a couple blunders in that game. I got the Lions at 4, and then a toss up between the Bills and Chiefs at 5. And on the outside looking in, the Ravens. I know they lost. I don't like them as much, but I just like the Jags. I don't know why. I know like they've got a long way to climb as far as like power rankings go, but they've demonstrated they can play a complete game. Like, and they can play on both sides of the ball. Seattle, I'm not a big believer in, but 49ers, Eagles, Lions, Dolphins, Bills, and Chiefs in some order, those last 3, those are the best teams to me, at least to my eyeball. The Bengals look better, but they still got a huge hole to climb out of. Do you disagree with any of those?
I don't love the Lions in there. I just think I don't
Well,
trust.
yeah, they're 4-1. 4-1.
I don't trust them. I'm saying if you're going head to head, I absolutely trust the Bills and Chiefs over the Lions based on who their quarterback is, based on playoff experience, based on things like that. Same thing I think in Miami. I mean, Miami. Tua had some really bad mistakes. The goal line 102-yard interception. Then he had another interception on his side of the field. And so, and again, Miami hasn't shown they can really stop anybody on defense. And so I think the common thread between all those other top 5 teams is a dominant defense. When you look at San Francisco and Philly in particular, you got dominant defenses. And so I think it's those 4 teams: San Francisco, Philly, Buffalo, Kansas City, and then I think a Miami, Detroit, second tier. Let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I do think, like you said, Cincinnati looked awesome. I thought Joe Burrow, they made a real cognizant effort to get Jamar Chase the
Absolutely.
ball, and I think it paid dividends. And I think that's just great coaching. I
Yeah.
think that's just
But like the Jaguars are 3-2, the Colts are 3-2, and I think they actually improve with Minshew under center as opposed to the Rook. That's just my read on it. Drive by style. I'm not following that team. That's super close. But for the Commanders to make the playoffs, they're gonna have to beat. They're gonna be in the mix with teams like Green Bay 2-3, the Falcons and the Saints and the Buccaneers, all 3-1 or 3-2, all positive. And Seattle, 3-1. Even the Rams, who they see later on in the season, are 2-3. Like, this is not I don't think it's a guaranteed or an easy path, for the Skins to the playoffs. I just don't see it that way right now.
no. Nobody said a guarantee or easy path. What the question was, do they have a shot? And the answer is
Yeah, they have a shot.
absolutely. They will have a shot the
They have a shot.
entire
They'll have a
season.
better shot if they fire Ron. I just they've got to make a change. If they lose in similar fashion to the Falcons as they have, or if they continue to bleed points on the defensive side of the ball and lose, Ron, he has to remove JDR. He just has to, or the few fans he still got are going to turn on him.
I don't know anyone that's a fan of Ron, and I will give a shout out to John and Chantilly, who requested Howie Roseman for $30 million from Philly as a GM guy.
Does John know that he's getting this shout out, or do we need to let him know?
He doesn't. He doesn't. If he's listening, okay, he needs to jump on. Okay.
Are you ready to switch into baseball? I know you're excited, and I can see Matt in the green room here. He's super excited too. Are you ready? Any other football topics?
No, we need a baseball. We need look, this is a wellness check for Matt. Okay, like Britney Spears had her own wellness check. This is a wellness check for Matt DeMet, who was a Mets. I mean, well, I want to wait till he gets on.
I mean,
Okay, I just want
it's
to make sure
exciting.
he's okay.
It's exciting to welcome him back. I mean, his team played like trash on fire, but we can leave that part.
Which one of his teams? Okay, which one of his teams?
About the Giants too, but isn't it nice to see his smiley face back on the pod?
Of course it is.
He lives for this time of year. It's Matt the Met.
What's up, fellas?
Back on the pod.
I'm back, baby. What's up to our 4 listeners out there? Our
Yeah.
wives, moms.
Hey, we don't care about live numbers. We care about replays here, Matt. That's what we care about. I'm assuming you're watching what's happening in.
I am watching, and I mean, man, I'm on the. What's funny? What like as a Mets fan, right? I heard all the talk coming in. Obviously, you got DeGrom and Scherzer on the Rangers. Neither is pitching, and they're about to go to the ALCS. We couldn't get out of the first round with those 2 dudes last year. The irony is just not
going to be there, though. Scherzer will be there.
Scherzer will be there.
He's going to give you 3 innings and 7 runs, okay? But he's going to pretend like he's going to go out there.
They'll be intense.
He'll get his ring.
All the faces, right? He still makes all the faces.
He was prepping for the ALDS, but they didn't put him on. Honestly, they don't even have to. Like, they're mashing. They're bashing the ball. Their lineup is insane.
Look, to get you on the podcast, all this baseball talk, that was just a pretense. This is a wellness check on you. Okay,
I'm doing all right,
make
man.
Sure you're okay. Okay, you had your Mets collapse. Highest payroll in baseball. They collapsed in June or July.
Yeah, it was early. It was early enough that I didn't have to care. It was before that. I mean, it was great. By right around June, I was just like, okay, summertime with the boys. Let's just focus on.
You had your summer free.
Yeah.
Then training camp opened, and the Giants, their collapse happened week 2.
Week 2, we're overpaying quarterbacks, which is great. I mean, everybody's overpaying their quarterback, but like we had a franchise quarterback that should have never been a franchise quarterback. Wonderful. Saquon Barkley, like he fights to get a big contract. I mean, look, you can't blame a guy for getting hurt, and he's extremely talented, and it sucks to be candid, but like, come on, everybody, who didn't see this coming? Who didn't see this coming? And then like I can't name 3 guys on the squad. Like I can't, like I don't care to. Like honestly, it's not worth my time. Sundays are.
There was a guy who had a 102-yard interception.
There's Sterling Shepard, right?
Which guy?
Which guy are you talking about?
The guy who had picked off Tua for 102 yards. Couldn't name him. Couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
Thibodeau. I know him. He's number 5.
Thibodeau, and then what's the big dude up front on the?
I don't know. It was your team.
Leonard Williams, right? Is Leonard Williams?
I'm studying them for another 2 weeks.
There you go.
Matt, I'll trade you our number 99 Chase Young for Thibodeau straight up, and you wouldn't do that.
Dude, I get it. The Giants are tanking for Mr. Irrelevant. We're trying to find our Brock Purdy, baby. We're gonna find our Brock Purdy.
No value
because they can't draft well at the top of the draft. Who the heck drafts Daniel Jones? So when everyone else is saying, "Don't touch the guy,"
who did they pass up on? Give me a quarterback they passed up on.
Oh God, the names hurt. Honestly,
they passed on Montez Sweat, who's deserving of a.
Let's see.
I can go. I can go. Listen, the football.
We need a stat boy. Where's LP?
I know. Seriously, what is this?
I mean, I believe he does have an active subscription now to PFF to help us with some of this stuff. But listen, I want to talk about baseball. I want to explain to me, Matt, why I was so excited watching last night as Bryce. I don't know what Bryce was doing, but the catch, the throw, the missed catch, the throw to first, like all the excitement, the ballpark going bananas. I know I'm not supposed to be cheering for either of these teams, but I can't help but find myself sucked into the game and kind of pulling for the Braves. I don't know why. I feel like they're nice guys. I don't know what else to say.
Listen, I tell you something about the Braves. Man, I wish I was a Braves fan. Like that's the best thing. That organization is so well run. They're so smart. They draft well. They keep the right guys. They pay them. They have this team locked up for the next 6 or 7 years, pitching staff and offense. I mean, I too was rooting for the Braves. One, because I'm tired of all these short series. Like I think there's a bigger conversation here about is this playoff, the way the playoffs are structured, working or not. Last night was playoff baseball, and it was fantastic. And it was 2 really good teams going after each other. the Braves bullpen deserves a lot of credit for not letting that game get out of hand. Falling down 4-0 in Philly, you would think that game, I honestly was ready to turn it off. I was telling my son, go to bed. There's nothing to watch here, right? I turn away, and then I see the chatter. I'm like, oh my God, the Braves. Oh my God, the Braves. And then sure enough, these guys, I've never seen a lineup. They had 4 dudes with 30-plus home runs this season. One of them had 40. One had over 50. Right? Like that type of numbers. 8 guys had over 20 home runs. Nobody has hit the way these guys have hit. They run, they play baseball really well. They've got some really good, they're a perfect team. And it sucks that they almost went, like last night could have been the end of that series. And I think I was rooting for the same conclusion. I was like, this has to continue. We want to see 2 good teams play it out, right? I expect that this will go 5. I think just Steve's going to get his dream out there. I think he's going to go get to see it.
Because he wants to see it in person on Saturday.
I would too. But I will say this about Philly, man. That stadium rocks. Like that stadium.
Well, we had Pete from Philly on last week, and he was all in his feelings. He was like half watching the game and half talking to us, but he was riding every pitch as if it was, that's it. Like it's it. Season's on the
I don't have anything good to say about any one Philly fan, and I don't have much good to say about a bunch of Philly fans together. But the only thing I would say is when you throw them together in a stadium, they make a lot of noise. Whether they're booing Santa or whatever they're doing it at loud decibels, and it's intense.
Matt, what Joe is feeling, okay, just corroborate here. Joe is feeling the beauty of playoff baseball right now. I mean, what you saw was everything that was great about playoff baseball, from the jump out in front. I mean, they silenced that crowd at Truist going up 4-0. I mean, for 15 innings, essentially, for all 9 in the first and then 6 in the game 2, the Braves, that potent offense that Matt just so eloquently described for a minute there, was silenced. These guys couldn't hit anything off of Wheeler and who was it? Ranger, who pitched game 1.
Suarez,
they couldn't hit anything. Suarez. So all of a sudden they're down 4-0. This season is over. You can't go back to Citizen Bank Park down 0-2. Then they score on a terrible play by Trey Turner. Now Bryce Harper saved Trey Turner because Bryce Harper's play was so bad that we don't realize Trey Turner let in the first run on an error himself. And then d'Arnaud, I mean, you're talking about their number 8 hitter. I mean, it's essentially their backup catcher, right? Sean Murphy is their everyday guy. d'Arnaud hits a 2-run, just absolute blast. It's the end of Wheeler. There you go.
Wasn't bashing like that with the Mets. I'll tell you that.
But that's what got Wheeler out of the game. That was the beauty of that. He had to come out after that. And then Austin Riley, and that moment, I mean, you just knew something was going to happen. Acuna stealing third. 3-2 count. How a game can flip on one pitch, an NFL fan, an NBA fan doesn't get it. Maybe a soccer fan gets it because they can flip on a goal. Yeah. But you just got to experience it.
I'm a callback. What's that callback? 96 Leyritz home run. It had that same feel. Look, I'm not even a Yankees fan, but it had that same feel. 96. That's a series just turned. Everything turned. Like, you left that game last night saying the Braves are going to win this series, right? Just for whatever reason, I think that's what you left feeling. Like, up until then, Bryce Harper is his own worst enemy. I mean, he ran past that sign right in the last series. He scores. Everybody's like, great, the hustle, the whatever. But he gets on base. He's a little reckless. I mean, he's always been a little reckless. He wants to show that he's got the play read better than anyone else. And I think it bit him in the butt yesterday. Honestly, I think it bit him. And a game has never ended. I don't think there's ever even been that kind of double play in a playoff series yesterday. So for a game to end that way and for the catch to be as dramatic as it was amazing. I watched it and I was in awe. I was like, I want more. Like, let's play a test.
My 9-year-old son watched the play in the morning, and he plays AAA baseball. And I asked him, what did Bryce do wrong? Said he didn't stop at second. That was the right play. Yeah. Bryce the ball was not going to get catched. I mean, the Michael Harris, the run he made and the jump he made to catch that ball, Bryce needed to be at second. But what Bryce did is he made that turn so hard that was the only way he was going to get doubled off. If he had just stopped in front of second, once the ball dropped, he still would have scored. That ball would have bounced off the wall. Michael Harris would have had no chance. He was going to score easily, but he got too aggressive, too cocky, too caught up in the moment. He turned second. He slipped on the way back, and Austin Riley made a little league play backing up the throw to the cutoff man that we have been, hammering into our kids in Little League. You see a third baseman making tens of millions of dollars, backing up that throw and throws a dart. You're right. The Braves are going to win this series. I don't know how they're going to go into Citizen Bank Park and win, but if anyone can do it, it's these guys. Those were, I think are they the two best teams left in baseball? Probably. Maybe the Astros have something to say about that.
The Astros are still, But
those are the two. That was the slugfest. And whoever comes out of this series, clearly the Dodgers look like a disaster right now. And the Diamondbacks look awesome with their pitching. But the two best teams in the NL.
The Orioles look terrible too. I mean, this is one of those things I wanted to bring up with you guys as the baseball connoisseurs here, right? Does MLB have to fix this playoff format? Because you've got, like, I'm looking at the Diamondbacks, just one example. They lost over 110 games a couple seasons ago. They make the playoffs, and now they're on the precipice of winning a short series against the Dodgers. Like, there's something, I just feel like there's something flawed here when the season is so long.
What do you want, the NBA best of 7 where every series is miserable?
No, I don't know what was wrong with the old playoff seeding with baseball. Like, I understand the need to get more teams in from it's better for revenue, it's better for the TV, it's better for the fans. I understand that, but the season is disproportionately long, and now there's a disadvantage to the better teams. Like, you're resting them. If like rest in all the sports, with the exception of football, generally not a good thing. Like, you don't want players getting, like, soccer has its own cadence and rhythm. You play on the weekends. You've got your European tournaments or whatever during the week. It has somewhat of a cadence. With basketball, we see this regularly, right? As somebody sweeps in the conference finals, and then they're just sitting for 4 or 5 days. They come out tremendously rusty. Is there something to be said about that with baseball, where you're not playing every other day? You're literally playing every day, and sometimes multiple games in a day. So there's just something that seems, again, casual fan here, but it just seems off that you would have such a long season with such an importance placed on, over 162 games. Like, you're trying to fight for these top seeds, but those teams are legitimately at a disadvantage. I believe they are coming in cold.
So a couple of thoughts here, though. So baseball has by far the smallest number of teams that actually make the playoffs, right? And I think outside of any other sport, rarely do you get a team that doesn't actually belong in the playoffs. Like, you might get a bad division winner, but if there are 6 playoff teams or 7 playoff teams, 6 of them actually played really well enough. Like that conversation we were having about, can the Commanders get in to the playoffs? In baseball, it's less likely that you get that one. You might get one, but you're not going to get 2 bad teams in there. So I will say that I think the wild card makes for teams to go in, like the Diamondbacks. You had the Reds, you had the Cubs, you had teams that, like, switch out the Diamondbacks for any one of those teams, even the Marlins, right? You would have had good teams playing. So I think on that level, I think what baseball has done is they are forcing teams to play better, to actually go out and make an exciting, the trade deadline. Like, that stuff is really exciting because you have more teams that are in it. So coming to the playoffs, I think the format actually is really great. I think what we saw with the Mets last year,
best of 3, then
best of 3, best of 5, and then best of 7 for the final 2, right?
Yeah.
For the CS and the World Series.
But doesn't it just seem odd that you play all of these games, and if the seeding falls, the way it does, you got to win 2 again.
So I'll take the 3 games over the 1 game wild card that they had for the last few years before, right? Like, you have like that, to be able to come out and just have a 1 game playoff, that doesn't feel like even like remote. To the point is, baseball is played in series anyway throughout the season, right? So put a series together. Best of 3 actually, I think, is a good series, a good starting playoff series, because you're usually playing a 3 or 4 game series against the team in the regular season. That continuity there is actually really good. Like, the Mets, they won 101 games last year. They should have won that series against the Padres. They didn't, right? And I can't blame the playoff format on that.
This guy's still salty about a year ago.
I'm very salty.
I was 196 a few seconds ago.
Okay, but my point.
What were you doing in 1996?
So I actually think the playoff format really works, but there is a problem. Like, what is the incentive for teams to win their divisions if we're going to constantly have these better teams, right? There's got to be something that we could do within. I actually like the playoff format, but is there something, and I haven't figured out what that thing is yet, that incentivizes winning your division, right? Like, winning your division and getting that bye, because it should help you to set up your pitching, like, rotation. but bats go cold. Like that's the one thing we know about baseball. Bats that sit, bats go cold, and it takes a game or two to get hot. And the Braves, I think,
I mean, look at the Orioles. Look at how their season is going to end here. Like they are.
yeah,
I believe they're the better team between themselves, between the Orioles and the Rangers. The Orioles are the better team, and
I think that's debatable. But I think coming out of the way the season finished, yeah, the Rangers had a lull there that I think ruined or made their season look worse than it was. But at one point in time, they were leading the AL West and could have rightly won the. I mean, they lost it on the last day of the season, right?
Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, right? Same deal. Diamondbacks and Dodgers, right? Like it's better for baseball for the Dodgers to be in the playoffs longer, right? Just TV and ratings purposes. It just is.
The problem you have, yeah, exactly, is just that like nobody wants to watch like Rangers Diamondbacks. Like that's a potential series, right? When you think of all the series matchups that I shouldn't say nobody. It'd be a good baseball series.
Nobody
but
wants.
No, right? But that's not. I mean, sign me up for Braves Astros. Like that's what I'm hoping for. That's what everybody I think is. But what baseball fans want. So
I think baseball also deserves some credit. I think to a casual fan, and that's the category I would fall in. I believe I should fall into. The average game time way down, right? Like, and I think that has been like, as somebody who like, I generally struggle to watch an NFL game, which is somewhat time boxed. Last night's game flew by. Like it was exciting. It was loud, but it was also just over 3 hours, right? It was shorter than the average NFL game. And that's a big deal. Big deal.
Joe, this guy's trying to not piss off our NFL sponsors here, okay? Off air, okay? You admitted that we were watching the Raiders. Who did they even play yesterday? Packers and Braves Phillies, and you were saying the Braves Phillies was so much better. Joe, Goodell's not coming after you, okay? You can admit it, okay? You can admit it.
I don't know if I could sit down and watch, like two terrible NFL teams. I mean, I'm not drawn to every playoff matchup. Okay. Like right now I got the game on. I'm watching it off screen here, but like, I don't really care. Like, I don't really care about Baltimore. I don't really care about the Rangers for whatever reason, division rivals, whatever. I do care about Bryce, right? Even if I'm rooting against him, I do care about Atlanta. I don't know all the nuance baseball stuff that Matt was, spewing earlier about how they pay the right people and they love each other. And then the clubhouse is smells like roses. I don't know about any of that stuff. I just know that from a young age, when I came home and there was nothing on TV, I could turn on TBS. There was a Brave game. It was a Braves game. And I always wondered, why does this thing start at 4:05? Like, why is everything on TBS start at 4:05? I have no idea, but I knew I could find the same thing with the Cubs. If you WGN, there's going to be some random baseball, game on in the middle of the day that I can pretend to understand or watch. But I think like when you look to the average fan in particular, a couple years ago, a game was 3 hours and 10 minutes, on average, a regular season game. It's down to 240. That's a huge drop. And it's a meaningful change. I mean, I was telling you, Stevie, the MLB official numbers, their official gate totals, 70 million in attendance. It's the best they've had since 2016 or 2017. That's not by accident, right? When the games are shorter, you can actually plan to do things after, especially in a town like DC. Like I know I'm not going to be in Nats Park until 10 p.m. I'm going to get out of there by 9:25, whatever. Okay, there's time to get a drink. There's time to do other stuff. It's a big deal. And this was the stat that really caught my eye. Only 9 games during the 2023 season lasted longer than 3.5 hours. 9. 2 years ago, 390 games lasted longer than 3.5 hours. 390 down to 9. That is a huge drop. And it's a meaningful one.
Listen, I'm going to push back on Matt's point is the shorter playoff series are awesome. And to me, greatest experience of my life, Matt Demet, 2019 wild card, 1 game, Nats Brewers, Juan Soto clears the bases in the bottom of the 8th inning. The most bonkers moment I have ever been in a sporting event, which obviously led to them winning the World Series. And to me, the beauty of these short series is best of 5, best of 1 is how you handle the pitchers. And the Nats showed that in 2019. If you have 1 game, you know who came out of the bullpen in that game? Steven Strasburg came out in relief. There's 1 game. You're throwing all your horses in because you have 1 game. Same thing with game 5s. And, I remember when we played the Dodgers. Strasburg started it. Scherzer came out. Like, that was so cool. Game 7 of the World Series. Corbin comes out of the bullpen, after Scherzer pitches 3 innings. Imagine an NBA where a playoff series where LeBron can only play every third game, or he could only play 10 minutes of the next game where he started that game. How
Yeah,
amazing! That's
we're
that's
close
when
to that
managers.
now.
I'm with you. Look, I just think a one game playoff for baseball just feels inorganic. Like, give me 3 games, give me a series, right? That's typically how you play throughout the season, right? I think that's like, I think you have the other problem in the NBA, right? Is like you play once, you play a team twice sporadically in a season, right? Across, and then you go and you have to match up against each other, and it becomes a strategic matchup over 7 games, and these series tend to get pretty boring, right? And then because they figured each other out. Some of the series are great, but I like the 3-game series. I actually think 3, 5. I'm with you. I think those are good. I'm not against them. I'm just saying maybe all 3 games are at home, right, to the division winner, right? Because instead of giving that 3rd game on the road, and I forget what the rules are around, but I'm just like, something has to be done to incentivize the better teams to continue to be better, or else like you have this weird thing where everybody's vying for the wild card and almost nobody wants to come in first. I'm not saying baseball's there yet, but like it's just an interesting thing that we're seeing, and let's give it a couple more years. But I like the 3-game series a lot. I think it's cool, but I don't want my 100-win teams out by my 100-win teams out by the second round of the playoffs. Those are the teams that I want to watch. I like dominant teams because they're often very well put together. You're going to get the Strasburg moments. You're going to get those better moments because they have the better players, right? And so I want to see them for longer. And I just think baseball's doing itself the lone disservices and it's not a bad problem to have, like to have a hot team go and beat the best team. But for me,
Well,
it just something feels off about it.
I actually think you need that for fair weather fans. They need names and people that they can identify. Like you don't. That's what you don't get with Diamondbacks and Rangers. I don't know anybody on either of those teams. Like I couldn't.
Who doesn't want to see Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman go up against the Braves, right? Like that's what I
was just going to ask you, Matt DeMet, why are the Dodgers imploding right now?
Dodgers pitching staff has been all season, I think, has been one of their Achilles heels, to be honest with you. I don't think they have the pitching. I think their lineup is great. I think this season also, like they had a few plug-in players. Like they've got they're very top heavy. I think the Dodgers are, where in past years, I felt like they had more even rosters. And I think that's why they're imploding. I think what you saw Kershaw do in game 1, man, I felt bad for the guy. Like the guy's one of the generational pitchers, but comes to the playoffs, he forgets how to pitch. I don't know what happened. Like it doesn't make sense, but his playoff track record is terrible. And the series is too short to allow for that. Like in a 7-game series, Kershaw has a bad game 1. Okay. He's coming back game 4, game 5. They may not see a game 4. Like that to me is mind boggling that you can't come back from that.
I don't think they're going to see.
I mean, watching Magic cheer the Dodgers on, you could see the look in his face is please. You can't lose because then I'm gonna have to attend more Commanders games.
which apparently are not very fun either for him. He's doing a lot of passive aggressive tweeting during Commanders games. Yeah. But listen, baseball I feel like right now is on the precipice of like a renaissance. Like I think it's already started for the diehards, such as both of you guys. I think fair weathers and casual fans are coming back to the sport in droves. I think it's a much better game day experience for kids. I think that's a big part of it. It's also, again, like offense is up, stolen bases up, success rate of stolen bases up, attendance up, game length down, home runs up. Like if they can just, if the names become more of like household names, right? Like, Matt went back to the 90s. I'll go back to the 90s too, right? Once upon a time, what put baseball on the map for a lot.
Brady Anderson. He's gonna say Brady Anderson.
I was gonna say like Sosa and McGuire, right? Like there was draw there. Like there was. It just feels like baseball's finally like not living in the shadow of the steroid era. And it's just like, hey, this is an awesome product here. And it's very easy to consume, especially in HD, especially like there's just something about it. And it's like,
well, Joe, they're doing a lot of this without any love from the worldwide leader. Okay. Because those guys sold their soul to the NBA. And Stephen A's got to make every story about the NBA, and they have to sell those broadcast rights and those TV rights.
The worldwide leader is effectively out of the sports business at this point, outside of the few. No, listen, the talking head shows.
Why can't I? Where do I go to not see Pat McAfee?
No, well, he's going to be everywhere because they paid him an arm and a leg. Him coming over to ESPN, to the worldwide leader, was the reason they let go of about 15 people on July 1st this past summer. So like they don't have any original content that people care about. Maybe Pat McAfee's he's a slight exception, and Stephen A. Like there's a few people that they care about, but the majority of the shows on that channel right now are people you even if you know who they are, you're not going to tune in to listen to them.
Who cares about the shows as long as they have the broadcast rights?
But they don't have those either. What games are they broadcasting?
NBA?
Right now?
Sunday
the
night.
NBA's
They
broadcast
broadcast
rights?
NBA. I can do a whole show about NBA ratings. Nobody's watching the NBA.
Yeah.
NBA's finished. NBA's finished. They went full on social justice warriors. It's like honestly, nobody's watching the NBA. Nobody. Last year's finals was the worst they've had in 17 seasons. Nobody's watching
the finals.
Yeah, what was
exactly.
the
Do you know where Chris Paul's playing now? Like I still
Golden
follow.
State? I know that.
He's in Milwaukee.
He's in Golden State.
He's in Golden State.
Oh, who won
the
last
finals?
night?
Okay, yeah.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. What was the question?
Who
Who won the NBA finals?
Are you kidding?
Golden State?
No.
No.
Wait.
The team did it for the first time in their history.
Oh, Denver.
Yeah.
Who they play?
Oh, that's awful. Denver probably played Milwaukee.
No. Do you know any other East? Do you know any other teams?
No, it wasn't Boston.
Boston.
It wasn't Toronto.
It was Boston.
No, it wasn't Boston.
No.
Who did Denver beat? Oh, this is embarrassing. I feel like.
I mean, how long do you want?
But
this
to your
go?
point, like, just, dude, Philly. No, not Philly. Who was it?
Come on,
Miami.
List them all. We'll get them eventually.
It was Miami, which is a terrible series. Like, that's Denver, Miami. Like, come on. Like,
Can you go back one more? Anybody?
Golden State,
Milwaukee.
Boston. No, Golden State,
Okay.
Boston.
All right. Matt, keep going.
Then we
Stevie's
had
team,
Milwaukee.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bucks
Okay.
over.
Phoenix. They
Over.
beat Phoenix.
Very
Phoenix.
good.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
Okay.
2020
And
in the
then
bubble.
LeBron's bubble.
Lakers,
Yeah.
Heat,
The fake title. Okay. Before that.
Toronto, Golden State,
Okay. One more.
and Golden State. Somebody.
LeBron's last year.
Cleveland. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you guys got it. Okay, you're watching a little.
A little,
You're Googling. Yeah, okay.
I bet we
it's
could
not-
name the 90s ones a lot easier.
a lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's
the
go.
80s and
Let's
That's
go.
a
Who
lot
won
easier.
1990?
90
Bulls, Lakers.
No, Bulls
No,
was
91.
92, 93.
Yeah.
Pistons, Lakers.
Bulls was the Pistons, Lakers. Yeah.
Yeah.
90s Pistons, Lakers. 91 Bulls, Lakers. 92 Bulls, Blazers.
Blazers.
93 Bulls, Sonics. 94 Rockets, Knicks. 95
Strike here.
Rockets.
No, it
Who
was
did the Rockets beat for the
Knicks,
second?
Rockets.
No, it was Magic.
No, Rockets Magic was the second one. Rocket Knicks was the first one. That was the one John Starks went like
Yeah,
0 for 17 and the yeah.
And OJ took off, yeah.
Yeah. And then you had MJ come back. So then you had
95, 96,
Sonics,
97,
Jazz,
or
Jazz.
96, 7, 8. Yeah.
Sonics,
Sonics,
Jazz,
Jazz,
Jazz.
Jazz.
right. Yeah.
Spurs.
And then Spurs,
Kraftwerk.
Knicks.
That was the beginning of the Spurs. Yep.
Yep.
No, then
And
it was
then-
beginning
so
of
that
Lakers.
puts us into
Lakers,
2000,
Nets.
right?
Well, it was Spurs, then Lakers,
Yeah.
Spurs.
No, Pistons.
Spurs. Oh yeah, Pistons.
Pistons had
Lakers.
that. Yeah, Pistons.
Pistons,
Then yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get to Spurs. So yeah, but that was the best era. The 90s, early 2000s. That's the best.
Yes,
era.
I agree. That was the best era. But just to bring it all back to where we were, like nobody's watching the NBA in general. Like that's a problem for the worldwide leader. And
Yeah.
I mean, we could do a whole show on that. Like, but that's what baseball. Like I said, I feel like baseball's on the precipice of a true renaissance here. Like for the casual fan, the game is short, the game is lively. It looks good on TV. It looks great in UHD. Like if you're watching in 4K, like through one of the apps on Apple TV or something, it just looks awesome. It gets
What you haven't seen yet,
almost
Joe.
event television, almost.
I'm gonna assume you haven't seen the umpire cam because you'd be talking about it right now. If you haven't, I will send you some videos.
Send
It is
I'd love to see it.
wild.
I'd love to
I
see it.
mean, watching a slider, a curveball from an umpire's
I'm
view.
all in on
How
these.
the hell can you
yeah.
hit this?
Send it to me because I am fascinated by it. Like there's like the science behind what a batter sees and the reaction time. Like more so than in any other sport. Like in football, the players are super fast and the gap, to throw a ball is really tight. It's very different in baseball. You're talking about, a bullet literally coming at you where you're effectively guessing. I know there's a skill involved, but they're guessing. They're guessing where and how exactly, the bat needs to be a millimeter higher or lower and the angles. It's just it's a cerebral game. I think Matt told me that once upon a time. And when he said it, like, it made sense. And like, it's very subtle also, like defensive sets in baseball, very subtle. Like there's shifts and there's like little nuances. Like the analytics are very tangible in baseball, not so much in football where you just know this guy can't cover. Oh, Emmanuel Forbes is over there. I'm just going to target him, 15 times this game.
Last thing about the
Low
shift,
blow.
Wait, is it true or false? Is it true or false? Like,
Man, he's deleted his Twitter. He deleted his X. Come on, guy's in some. Guy's got the walls blocked off. Okay, it's like padded down.
So look, what baseball did, I think, like first of all is really interesting. Like the shift was completely legal, right? The shift is what basically when you would stack 3 guys on a side, and baseball said you can't do that anymore, right? For the sake of the fans, you can't do that anymore. And I thought that was a big mistake because I was like, if I'm smart enough to set up my defense in a way to stop you, why should that not be legal? But baseball said we need more hits, we need more balls in play, we need more guys on base, and like I think that worked out so well. Like baseball, honestly, baseball's the best thing they did is they said, we have a problem. People aren't watching and we need to make this game watchable.
And the average age of those watching is 90. So,
and I think I think the NFL needs a serious look at itself, man. I can't sit through a 3.5 hour game.
I'm buying more and more into the Tay conspiracy theories that she's not actually there to date Travis. She's there to bring, women and a younger audience to the mix.
Which, by the way, the coverage of that is pathetic. Like, that's so sad. Like, who cares?
By the way, Travis Kelce's on every commercial. Like, it's bananas, actually, how he's literally on everything. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy watching all the commercials between the game. It's too long of a product. But
commercial after punts.
I wanted to talk about this NHL, this Frozen Frenzy thing. I think we'll park it till next week when we get FP back. But Matt, you were telling me that I'm a little late to the game here. Does baseball's
got one on their app?
Got this?
Yeah, it's called Big Inning, like on their MLB app, which is another thing that baseball did really good. They centralized their content. You want baseball content, you go to the MLB network, you go to the MLB app, right? So they're not dependent on the worldwide leader or anything else. So Big Inning is fantastic. And so they'll take you,
which is nice.
Yeah. They'll take you to, like, hey, Mike Trout's coming up soon. Let's go watch his at bat, right? And it's great. And you're not necessarily watching critical moment, but you're watching the guys you want to watch in moments that you want to watch them. And it's fantastic. So NBA surprisingly has one too called Crunch Time, which is supposed to.
It's the wrong sport. The sport moves. Like that sport moves
a lot less.
Yeah, I don't. I'm actually surprised. I didn't even know it existed, and I'm still an NBA mark after all these years. I still enjoy at times sitting down and watching an NBA game, but I don't think I would ever want to consume it that way. Like the beauty of the red zone is that it takes you to the team that's closest to scoring a touchdown, and you theoretically are you're recapping the touchdown. Well, with Gold Rush and Golazo, like that's fun to watch too because they don't actually show you what's happening. They just switch to the game and then let you watch 7 to 30 seconds of like it makes sense in those applications. I didn't realize baseball had one, but like now that I'm thinking through it, it actually makes sense like to consume the product and you have enough games going on at the same time every day that having that up maybe makes sense. Exposure to more players and more teams.
Baseball go quad box too, like they'll do that because if they're in the middle of a good inning,
I'm
they'll
obsessed
go quad box
YouTube
with
TV quad box.
I love fantastic. It. I just wish you could customize it. YouTube, if you're listening, Google,
it's good enough. Like, hey, it's good enough. No. It's good.
Let me pick what games I want to watch together. That's all.
He doesn't appreciate the access.
It's a very simple thing. Let me customize my quad box. That's all I want.
How big is your TV? Because Stevie was. I'm doing it on like a normal size TV, 55.
What's normal?
Size doesn't matter, Joe.
I've got a 55 and a 65. You tell me. Freaking Texas, man. They are just smashing right now.
It's over. It's over. Yeah. The Orioles are finished. Matt, thank you for making time. Appreciate you coming on and talking baseball. Hopefully we get you back on here as things continue to take shape. The playoffs continue here. Stevie, it was good to see you too. FP, I believe.
When are we doing the Premier League pod? Premier
Oh
League.
God, I'm ready to go right now. We kick Stevie out of here and we can talk about
Oh,
it.
come on. Get a plug. Logan Paul, Dylan Dennis, Saturday night. If you haven't been following that, you are missing out.
You gonna recap it for us next week?
Oh,
You have
I
quite
mean,
the sports weekend coming up.
I cannot wait. Saturday night, game 5, Falcons Commanders. Sunday, Logan Paul, Dylan Dennis. And then next week, big fight in Abu Dhabi.
For the Commanders game?
I will be in the building at Truist Park for game 5, fingers crossed. And Falcons Commanders, I'll be sitting in section 123. Have a big sign for my son's 7th birthday.
Enjoy one of those $3 hot dogs. Apparently it's the best concessions in the league. So
I heard.
It's
No
Eli,
Chick-fil-A,
right?
though.
It's Eli's birthday.
Yep.
Happy
Yep.
birthday, Eli. Yeah, man. Enjoy that.
Big sports weekend.
That's
big
good.
sports
That's
weekend.
good.
Safe travels, Stevie. Matt, it was good to see you.
Yes.
Thank you,
Good
boys,
to
for
see you
coming
guys.
on. This has been Defeating the Curse, available on all social media platforms. Follow, like, share, ask questions. And if you aren't consuming the product live, that's okay. It's available on every podcast platform that you could think of. It's on Spotify, it's on Google, it's on Apple, it's everywhere. Thank you for tuning in. Until next week, we are out.